and welcome back to what is a really exciting video, because today we're planting out the new back garden. It's going to have a slight Japanese inspired theme. My garden is in a city centre, so it's quite small. It's in a part shaded aspect, so all the plants you're going to see are for that sort of situation. So in this video we'll probably pick up a lot of tips and advice on the plants you can plant in that sort of garden, and how I'm going to be using trees, shrubs and ground cover to make a multi-storey visually exciting garden that's going to be a really relaxing space for me. And I'm just going to fill it with all my favourite plants that you would have seen in the previous episodes. So in this playlist you may have already watched the previous videos where we discussed the plan, we made the backdrop, all the fences have recently been painted, we amended the soil to make sure it's ready and prime for planting and suitable for the plants that I'm going to be planting. And we also discussed all the plants, because I love to talk about plants, and if you're interested in any of the plants that I'm planting in today's video and you want more information, you might want to hop back to that episode where I talk more about it. So we're here now today at the big plant out, and it's a bit of a showery day, so I'm hoping we've picked a little pocket of sunshine for the next few hours, because I want to get them in. So although this whole garden is one great big project, today we're going to be planting out 3 main areas, and the rest will be featured in future videos. So do make sure you're subscribed, because there will still be more to come from this area and as it progresses and develops over the season. And the main areas that we're going to be focusing on today are the patio. This area gets the most sun in the garden. The sun rises in the east, which is over this way, and then it sets in the west, which is over this way. So this area actually gets the most sun. This long border, it's approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 meters long and about 1 meter in width. This corner is probably the most shaded because we've got quite a big ivy hedge over there, but by the afternoon, probably about 2 o'clock, it does then get the full sun, and probably until about 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. So it's a part shade area, and I'll be planting it with plants that are suitable for those conditions. I'll also be growing climbers up the new trellis that we recently put up as well. So what's the first thing you want to do when you're planting up a new area? Well, assuming you've already got all your plants and you've made a plan, ideally you want to sketch that plan out and make a little drawing. I haven't done that. I'm much more a sort of practical, hands-on person that likes to visually see how it looks. But if you've got a very big border, a very big garden, then obviously it's probably better to draw it out first. So what I'm going to do now is take a look at all the plants that I've lined up down here, and then start picking them out and placing them where I think they might be going. These are all the plants that featured in the previous video of all the plants that I'll be using. So I've just lined them all up so I can see them all very clearly, and then start picking them out as to what I want into what section. These are all Japanese inspired plants, or plants that I just really love and want to have in my garden, or plants that I've rescued from the allotment. I'm aware it looks very, very brown around me, but that's all about to change. So I'm going to start placing my plants, and although I've got a good plan up here, it's always good to sort of use your intuition, use your gut, see what you think feels right. You can abolish the plan if you realise that's not what you want after all. As you start placing the plants, you might have a sudden idea. Just go with it, have some fun. I'm going to start with the plants that I know where they're definitely going, and then it will start to feel a little bit more intuitive, and just see how it feels and go with it and have a little bit of fun. For instance, it's good to know where your trees are going, because once you get these guys in, you don't really want to be taking them out and moving them, because they won't really like that. And this one I'm planting in the corner here, and next up is the really big Fatsia japonica. Going to grow nice and big, great for shady corners, which is where I'm sticking it, because we've got all of this brown fence here at the back, and I want that to be covered in leaves. So this is going to be going round about there, You may think it's quite close to the tree, and it is, but when you're planting them at the same time, you can do that. And I'll be able to manage the fascia to the height that I want it to get to, which will probably stop about here. So yeah, that's going to go there. So hopefully you can already see how we're going to start to use a lot of different leaf shapes and leaf textures to create a visually interesting garden, and also with lots of different stories. So we've got the higher level here with the tree, we've got the mid-level with the shrubs, and then ground level we'll have some lower planting as ground cover. We can also use the patio as well. Woo! Now another one of my favourites, the Amelanchier. I know that this is going in the middle of this border. Could be considered a large shrub or a small tree. It's going to be about central to cover up, I think, where that fence post is. So about there. It has grown at a bit of an angle, but we will plant it nice and straight when it goes in the ground. Now then, my climbers, I've got 2 honeysuckles and they're going to be going against the back trellis. I'm going to concentrate them on one trellis, and then the other one we're going to leave empty for climbers so that I've got room to play with in the future. I may add some roses at a later date. I don't have those just yet. Honeysuckles, great for a north-facing garden. Love a little bit of shade, don't mind a bit of sun, smell amazing. And I'm having one right here where we're going to be sat of a summer evening on the patio. And you can just imagine the smell that this is going to put out, particularly like early evening as the sun's just starting to go down. So I'll be out here with a drink, and yeah, that's going to climb its way across this trellis like so, and it will find its own way. I may tie in a few sections or just sort of poke them around the trellis, but they really do need very little care. So they're definitely going there. I'm now going to place the first of the aces. Definitely going to have one in this border, but I'm going to keep it in the pot for now because I don't think my soil is particularly acidic, so I don't want to keep it in the ground in case it's not going to take very well. But the benefit of having it in the pot is that you can move it around if we get bad weather, if it's particularly frosty, particularly windy, all those conditions that they're not really happy about. You know, you can just put them where you want them. So yes, let's grab the first acer. So I have 4 aces to choose from. The 4th is not actually over here because it's a little bit worse for wear, so we're not going to choose the 4th one. But yeah, this is the Sangu Kaku and the Baihu, I believe. And they're all sort of different shapes, so it's best to get them out and see which suits the area the most. You can hear my son there having a great time in his pushchair. I think I'm probably going to go with that one on the right. So this is the acer that we've gone for, and it's going to go at the back of the border where it'll get a bit of shade from this buddleia in the afternoon when the sun does creep round. And it's got a bit of a flat back, so that's going to be perfect for this wall. One thing you've got to be careful of is to make sure that it does get watered, because obviously it's in a pot and it's against a fence, and if you plant against a fence or a wall for something that needs a lot of moisture, particularly if it's in a pot, it's going to dry out a lot quicker because the rain might not always get to it, so do bear that in mind. The alliums down here are going to look a little bit out of place for a while. They did get battered around a little bit as we were sorting out the trellis, but some of them are still actually in good bloom, and I wanted to keep them there so I knew where they were so I could work around them. But I think that's going to look just the picture right there. It's just the right shape. And now to add my favourite tree, the ginkgo, that I have in the pot over here. I'm just going to slide it over there because I know this is where I want it, because I'm going to sit under it. And also it gives me a little bit of privacy from the neighbours next door when I'm sat on the patio. How does that look? Somebody's got the hiccups, and well, he isn't a fan. Hey, what do you think about the ginkgo? That's the important part. Is that the right place? I think it's facing the right way. What do you reckon? Yeah, we're good. Next up, I'm going to I'm going to place some of the ferns because they're going to go against the fence at the back. They're going to get nice and big, and I just love that dark green leaf against the fence. It's going to look really good. So this is one of our native ferns, and it will grow to about that sort of height, which is a great size. This is just a smaller version of it that I got from a garden centre, and this was a division that I took from a plant that exists already in the ground here. So this is a really nice tall one. I think I'm going to put this into my special log. So we've got some extra height to start with. And then it's just a case of dotting these along, generally at the back. And when you're working with your plants, you want to have a good number of the same plant so that it's consistent throughout the garden. It brings everything together, and this is one of my key plants that will do just that. So now we're at the point where I'm just going to place all the plants and then come back to you when I think I'm about there. Well, I've come to a good point where I've set out the border and I'm pretty happy with it, and the sun has just come out, and I just want to show you real quick how it's looking. How about that? We've got so much colour going on from those heucheras. Oh, I love that. We've got the ginkgo there on the left. I'm still thinking about this spot here where we've got room for a shrub, and I've put this here, a Nandina domestica Gulf Stream, because this connects all the sort of tinges of red. It has a bit of red, green, lovely white flowers, and it's evergreen as well. So, but I've got a choice of different shrubs to go in there, because I could also put the Mahonia softcaress, this dinky little pine tree, or this Philadelphus. There are just so many choices to make, so I'm just going to put the Nandina there for a while and see what I think. See, I'm already thinking that the orange of this heuchera, you can kind of, I don't know, against the terracotta pot, it kind of blends together a little bit. I don't know if I like that or if I'd rather move it. So swap perhaps this fern with this heuchera. Let's see what that does. Does it bring that pot to life a bit more? Yeah, and it sets off the leaves of that fern as well. Yeah, so just little tweaks like that, you know, it's worth just having a little play for a while. Now, do you remember the log raised border section, like a step that we put in as we amended the soil? Well, I definitely knew I wanted a fern for the middle of here to give extra drama, extra little bit of height. And underneath that, we're going to plant the geranium Vision Violet, so that we've got a bit of a trailer ground cover underneath, and it will hopefully sort of creep over the edge of that log. And we've got 3 small pots, which is perfect to fit each around this fern, and because the fern has quite a shuttlecock shape, it does mean that the base of it will be quite empty, so this should hopefully fill it in quite nicely. And this variety does actually get quite tall, so we'll see how it goes with this fern. And you know, I can always move 1 or 2 if they start to get a bit too big, but they'll just really lovely make a nice little cushion around the edge of that. And in front of this, we're going to put one of the heucheras for a little splash of orange. There we are, that's that little corner done. By having these geraniums raised above all the other plants, it just means that they're not going to get quite as drowned out by all those big leaves going to arch over. Remember, these are going to fill in quite quickly and quite densely, because I am planting it quite dense. Well, I think I've got as far as I can so far with this border. I'm going to head over to the patio next and work with the containerised plants and see what we can come up with over there. Now, my first job is to pot up these shrubs. My Mahonia softcaress is looking a bit yellow because it's a bit pot bound. It's been in this pot for a couple of years now. So we're going to bump that up into this one here, and this little pine tree we're going to bump up into that one there. So this pot used to have in it my spring bulbs, which I've just taken out, and I'm going to put in a little bit of grit just to help with the drainage of these shrubs. And we're going to mix this multi-purpose compost with some John Innes number 3, which is great for mature shrubs such as the one we have. This compost that I use for my spring bulbs is still quite fresh, but what we'll do is mix in a bit of bloodfish and bone just to give the contents a bit of a boost. I do also have a bit of well-rotted manure as well that I'm going to add. Because I love a bit of rich soil, and it will help the leaves go nice and green with all the nitrogen that's in this. I do love the way that the erigeron and the forget-me-not, both at different seasons, forget-me-not being spring and the erigeron being summer, will cover the pot of this and make a nice little filler to cover the base. So these will gently spread, and I've even got a few little seedlings that I'm growing on that will do the job of that too. There we are, just need watering in. Well, I think I'm about there, and now it's time for the all-important step, which is to step back and leave it. Leave it for as long as you can. A couple of days if you can, definitely overnight. You want to come back to it with a fresh pair of eyes so that you can make any sort of fine-tuning minor adjustments. You know, you might realise, oh gosh, what was I thinking? Why did I put that there? This has got to go there. You want to look at it from different angles. Look at it from the patio, look at it from the way you walk up to it. Also look at it out the window, and go, if you've got a second story on your house, go upstairs, have a look at it out the window, because all these things matter, and you want to come back to it with a fresh pair of eyes after it's been a little while. Maybe also bring a friend over, a relative, somebody that can offer their insight. You know, they might have a bit of wisdom if you're not 100% sure on something. So that's it for today. I'm going to come back tomorrow and see what I think then. So I'll see you in a minute. Hello, so it's the next day and the weather is much better. We've got sunshine, a few clouds. It rained a lot overnight. In fact, it was fairly stormy downpours that we had. But today we've got blissful sunshine and clouds all day long, and the bed is looking good. I've made some minor adjustments that you probably won't really notice, but otherwise we are all ready to plant, and I'm going to start at the top end where the tree is, I think, and then work my way down. The main tools that you'll see me using today are going to be a spade. I've got some bloodfish and bone in this container here, and some compost just for putting in the bottom of the planting hole to get the roots off to a really good start. And that's pretty much what I'll be using throughout, because I've already bumped up the soil with all that organic matter in the previous video, so it doesn't need too much more amending. But yes, as for the Fatsia, they do like it moist and damp, and you know, you can pick up these plants pretty cheap. So let's find exactly where I need it. There, yeah. So we're going for the middle of the border and just dig a hole the same size as the root ball. Oh, I chopped myself off. But yeah, the soil here is so nice to work with since we've had all that rain, and it looks so much more healthy from what we started with. So just go with a little sprinkling of bloodfish and bone. And it's always a good idea to put that into the planting hole rather than on the surface, because it obviously stinks, and particularly if you're a cat or a fox, a dog, whatever other creatures you might have in your area, they can smell that a mile away and they might come along and start digging things up. So putting it in the planting hole just helps stop that from happening. Oh, look at those gorgeous, gorgeous leaves. Can't wait to watch this grow. Oh, yeah, it's a really nice shape, this plant, so it's going to fill out quite quickly, I think. Lots of new growth already on the way there, look. Look at that tiny little leaf. Oh, it's like a little baby hand. So yes, the root ball is just below the surface of the soil. We're not going to go too deep, otherwise it will struggle. So yeah, now we're going to backfill it with the soil that we've got around it. There we are, bring that around. And then you want to get your foot and firm it in. And I'm expecting it to sink quite a bit as the soil around here is quite airy from where I piled it all on and haven't stomped it down. To give it a little bit of a tug and it won't go anywhere. That way you know you firmed it in quite nicely. Number 1 done. Now we're on to the tree. Now then it's time to get this beautiful pink pagoda sorbus tree in the ground, and to do that there are a few things you need to bear in mind when you're planting a tree. I'll give you 3 top tips. Number 1, don't plant it too deep. If you plant it too deep and the soil goes around the trunk of the tree, it'll rot at the bottom and die. Number 2, make sure that the planting hole is a good size and that the soil is all amended and good for it to root into, which mine already is. Number 3 is to make sure that you stake your tree. I cannot stress to you the importance of staking a tree, and I think some people might believe that, you know, they can cut that corner, it's only a small tree, or, you know, they don't want to pay for the price of a tree stake or go to that extra work of making it staked in the ground. And I'll tell you now, it is just not worth it. If you're going to pay the good money to get a beautiful tree, you want to pay a little bit more and stake it, because what the tree stake does is, it's not so much that it stops it from blowing over, snapping, or something like that. It's actually also, well, it is those things, but it's also protecting the root ball. And by staking it in the ground, you're holding that root ball in place. And you've got to think, if it's in a windy situation, imagine this is the top of the tree, this is the root ball. When it's windy, sirens, yeah, I tell you, we are in the city centre here. As the wind blows, obviously all that foliage is going to catch the wind and it's going to move the tree. Now, if your tree is staked, all it'll do is this. But if you haven't just staked your tree, it's going to do this. You see my elbow's moving. That's because the root ball's now moving. And what you're going to do is stake your tree so that it's going to stay in place. The wind will blow the foliage, but the root ball isn't going to go anywhere. And if that root ball starts moving in the hole, it's not going to establish very well, because all the roots, they'll just get into the soil and then they'll come loose, or they'll break away, and they'll have to do it again and again and again, and again, gradually your tree will slowly die. So yeah, stake your tree. Now, some general rules when you're staking your tree. The tree stake, when you're positioning it into the ground, it goes at about a 45-degree angle from the trunk of the tree, and the tip of the stake should be pointing into the prevailing wind, which in the UK is generally a southwesterly, which is that direction over there, which means I need to point this at you when it goes into the ground. And when the tree stake goes into the ground, the top of the stake should be no higher than about 1/3 of the height of the tree. So from obviously the top of the pot here, 1/3 would be about where my hand is there. So it'll end up looking a bit like that. So now it's time to get it in the ground. So it's the same as before. We're going to be going down just a little bit below the pot level, as I'll be putting in a little bit of compost into the planting hole. Now, typically, most gardens in the UK have very clay heavy soil, and if you're digging down and all you've got is clay, you want to be taking out that clay and replacing it with nice topsoil. A bit of compost as well, doesn't hurt, or even some John Innes No. 3 compost, which is designed for trees and shrubs. Anything to give it a bit of looseness. A hole that's wider than the width of the pot, so that those roots aren't going to coil round and round and round, because we want them to go down. Now I'm running out of room to put all of this, so I'm just going to put it into this bucket. And the general advice is to dig a hole that's twice the width of the tree, but no deeper. Always want to keep the level of the trunk at the same width as it is on the pot as it is in the ground. So let's try that out. So you can see there, that's the top of the pot and that's the level of the soil, and it's the same. It'll probably cover it just a little fraction, which isn't a problem because we do have a few little fibrous roots there which we want to cover, but you don't want to be burying that trunk. If you bury the trunk is going to rot. So always make sure you keep that bit clear. Now that we've got our hole prepared, if you've got really compact subsoil, you would want to get your spade and a fork and just break it up, and maybe fork around the outside of those hole sides as well, just so you've got plenty of broken soil, and it will improve the drainage as well. I'm just going to add a little bit of the bloodfish and bone, and since it's a tree and trees need a lot more moisture than shrubs and perennials, I'm going to fill this planting hole with a good glug of water. We will be watering it in at the end as well. You want to make sure you plant it after that puddle has drained, otherwise it won't settle properly. Now then, before we backfill it and before we stake it, we want to make sure that we've got the tree facing the right way, because all plants have a front face, the way that they look their best. This is its front face. If I was to plant it like that, you can see that's its back. It's not as attractive, that's a side. So we're going to plant it facing that way. Obviously make sure you stand back, look at it from loads of different directions before you determine which way it is going to face. Because once it's in the ground, you really don't want to be having to replant it, which is why also you should stake it as you plant it. Nothing worse than having to stake it after you planted the tree, because that's just not really going to work very well. So at that angle, tuck you around there, third of the height. So I'm going to need to tap this in there. Now typically you'd use one of them lump hammers. I've got one somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Now I'm going to firm that in a lot more once I find the lump hammer, which is hiding in my garage. But now I'm going to backfill the planting hole. And again, you want to get your foot and firm it in so it's not going to shift. Go all the way around the plant, actually using your heel to really firm it down. Make sure we're not burying that trunk. Haven't gone too deep. No, we're looking good. And then once you've got the tree in the right spot, it's firmed in and you're happy with the stake. As I said, I'm going to tap mine in more. If you find that it's too long, you can actually just get a saw and cut it down. I do need to get a lump hammer on this. To tie it to the tree stake, I am using a rubber tree strap, like this. And another way that people commonly cut corners is to use a bit of rope or a bit of twine, something they've got lying around. But the benefit of using a proper tree strap is that it's made of rubber, and this is not going to cut into the bark of your tree, which if you use string or something like that, as it moves around with the wind, that can actually open up a wound where infection can get in. So you want to use something soft, such as this tree strap. And what you want to do is basically make a figure of 8. So this bit goes through the top loop, well, the second loop down like that, and then your tree goes through the middle, and then this bit goes around the tree stake. So it's a figure of 8 like that, and then it's nice and secure. You can also at this point remove, if you've got a bamboo cane on your tree, You can remove that if you do so wish. That's quite often just used as the growing cane for the nursery so that it's kept nice and straight as it's growing. So you just go around the tree and then around the cane. And periodically what you want to be doing is checking the strap to make sure it's not too tight, because as your tree grows you will find that you will need to loosen it. But for now that looks good. And you want to keep the tree stake in place for a good maybe 2 years and then check how your tree is doing. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. As I said, just going to tap it in a little bit more once I find that lump hammer. But yeah, the tree should be nice and secure then. All that's left to do is to give it a really good drink. Now that the tree's in, all that's left to do is all of these other shrubs down there. But yeah, do you want to have a look at the border? Let's have a look at the border before we plant it. You know, another change I think I'm just going to make now is below this fern. Do you remember I've got these little geraniums? I've got 3 under there, but they are going to spread quite quickly. So I think actually I only really need 2. So I'm going to put one of them where those bricks were as a nice ground cover, because these things are going to, well, that's going to climb up the trellis and that's going to make a small shrub. So we need something to cover the ground. So that's going to go there, and we'll pop one at the front. Fern's going to go there. There we go, that'll quickly fit in. So we've got heuchera and then the beautiful leaf of the epimedium next to the huge leaf of this hosta. Repeating again epimedium, but this is the other one that's got that gorgeous sort of orange tinge which we copy with the heuchera to tie it all together. In the middle we have the Amelanchier. Oh, and a spider, just put my hand on. It's already got berries on, fantastic. And then further down we're just continuing with lots of ferns, hostas. I've kept the rock for now, and then the acer I've kept here. I knew I wanted it there. Really fills that corner nicely. Probably going to get a climbing rose on the back of this trellis as we don't have anything climbing it currently. And then we've got more fern down in the corner there. And yeah, just carrying on the theme. So using the same plants throughout the border to bring it all together for a bit of consistency. If you're starting on a new garden and planting up a border, I know it can be quite daunting not knowing what spacing to put between your plants, and something I would generally recommend, what I do anyway, would be to give about 1 metre between your shrubs, and for small perennials and little things, perhaps 30 to 40 centimetres. And that's a general guide on where to start. And if you do that, then you can't really go too wrong. And if you do, well, when the plants are still young, you can pick them up and move them quite easily, as long as you're doing it sort of spring, autumn, when they're more dormant. Sorry about that, I had to dart off because Dylan is trying to go down for a nap, and he naps really well outside, but once he's down, it's all good. He's nearly down. But yeah, I think we're there. So it's time now just to get the rest of this planted. I won't be going through each plant, don't worry. But yeah, just following that general principle of a bit of bloodfish and bone, bit of compost, and then yeah, we're going to be doing a real deep watering at the end. with the last plant planted, it's all done. All that's left to do is to tidy up because I'm surrounded by pots. So yeah, let's get tidying and then I will show you around the final look. Oh, it's so gorgeous, I love it. So here is the final patio look, and I mean I could play around with these pots for hours, but they're all out and I've got the two aces there at the back, the Mahonia. I've got a little table with all of my potted pelargoniums. The Mahonia actually at the back, I've got that Erigeron and I'm going to encourage it to self-seed all across the patio, so if it decides to pop up here and there and spread, then so be it. I would be very happy for that to happen. My little pine tree is really sentimental to us, and then the bamboo, which acts as two things. It sort of makes that beautiful sound as it rustles. Oh dear, dummy down. But it also blocks off the car a little bit when I'm sat on the patio. But yes, there's a big empty space in the middle because we do have some rather cheap and cheerful patio furniture that we'll be putting back here, which we'll upgrade at some point. What do you think, young Dylan? Oh, and for those asking, it's Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N, which is the Welsh spelling. I didn't realise you could spell it another way. I don't know if that's an American thing or what, but yes, that's how it's spelt, and it means son of the sea. Yeah, what do you think? You're having a good look round. You really like the ginkgo. The sun's just come round now to the west side, so we're going to get all this evening sun on the border to make it really shine and bring out all those colours. I am so pleased with it. What do you think? Gradually all these plants are going to knit together and create a nice little carpet, and you won't see any little patches of soil. But where there are little pockets, I've still got those other plants to put in, remember, that are coming in the post soon, the Astrantia and the anemones, which will extend the flowering season. So the anemones will be flowering late summer into autumn. Wow, it's now so sunny. The sun's come round to the west side, which means this border is going to get all of the evening sun and just really highlight all the colours of these beautiful plants. I'm just so happy with how it's all come together in the end. And yeah, this is it. Let me know what you think. I mean, things may change in the future, who knows? All of these plants are really tough, really easy to grow, and it's a good thing because going forward my little boy is going to become a toddler, and they're all quite soft and bouncy, and you know what, they're going to take a little bit of a battering from a football or, you know, him falling into the flower bed. It's going to be absolutely fine. They're not going to damage or break. So really tough plants, apart from the aces, but you know what, they're at the back or in pots, so I can just move them. But yeah, really looking forward to seeing how this now knits together in the future. And I'm probably going to put a lot more autumn bulbs in here as well, particularly the alliums, because I love the way that purple complements the sort of lime green. Love it. Next in this series I'll be tackling the gravel area, and there's another little border, and then thinking about what we're going to do about that huge gravel bit in front of the drive. So there's still a lot more projects to go, so do make sure you're subscribed so you can see how this garden changes and evolves over the coming years and months. But yes, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think. I'm going to leave a little bit of B-roll at the end of this video, but I must now have a cup of tea, do some watering, and sit back and relax and enjoy my garden. I know that tomorrow is going to really pour with rain, so I'm going to really enjoy watching my plants sort of suckle that up. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.